This is the final exam review. On number 1, when you multiply, you add the exponents, and the -3 times the +2 equals -6. For the letters, you add exponents. On number 2, reduce 3/15. 3 goes into both of those. And then on the letters, you subtract exponents. If there's 7 on bottom and 4 on top, that leaves 3 on bottom. For the B's, there's 5 on top and 1 on bottom. 5 minus 1 leaves 4. Number 3, the negative on the outside tells you to flip the x and the y, and then you multiply exponents. On number 4, there's letters on both sides, so cancel out the one that's on the right because it's smaller by adding 2x to both sides. When you add, the symbol stays the same. Now you subtract 6 on both sides. When you subtract, the symbol stays the same. So we have 4x less than or equal to 12. So we divide by 4 on both sides. When you divide by a positive, the symbol stays the same. So x is less than or equal to 3, means you include 3, so you color it in. Less than is on the left. Read your number line from left to right. So that would be -infinity to 3. We're including because of the or equal to, so that's why there's a bracket around the 3. Number 5, distribute the -2. The symbol stays the same because we're not multiplying on both sides. Okay, so distribute the -2. We undo the +6 with subtract 6. And then we need to divide both sides by -2. A +4 divided by a -2 equals a negative. Since we divided by a negative, you flip the symbol. That's why it turns into greater than. So we plot that on the number line. It doesn't have the or equal to, so we don't include. Greater than means to the right. So since we're not including, that's why there's a parentheses. You read it left to right, so from -2 to -infinity. Number 6, absolute value gets split into 2 separate parts. You do a +17, you do a -17. You flip the symbol on the negative side. Okay, greater than is or. You always use or with greater than. Remember that memory tool was GO-LA. Greater than is or. So you solve both of those for x. On the left side, subtract 5 on both sides, divide by 2. When you subtract, the symbol stays. When you divide by a positive, the symbol stays. On the other part, you also subtract 5 and divide by 2. When you divide by a positive, the symbol stays the same. So we get x is greater than or equal to 6, which means include to the right of 6. Or x is less than or equal to -11, which means include less than's on the left side. Read your symbols left to right, -infinity to -11, and then 6 to infinity. When you have or equal to, you include, which means you put a bracket around. Number 7, absolute value split into 2 equal parts. Less than 5 and greater than -5. On the -5, you will always flip your symbol. Less than is always and. That memory tool, GO-LA. Less than and. The LA. So solve for x. 3x minus 1, add 1, and divide by 3. Symbols stay the same. On the right side, add 1 and divide by 3. Symbol stays the same. So less than 2 means don't include and go left. Greater than -4/3 means don't include, go to the right. Less than is and means both. So where is it in both lines? The stuff that's in between -4/3 and 2. There's not an or equal to, so you use parentheses. Number 8, factor. The top left is a difference of squares. +2 minus 2. The bottom left is a trinomial with a 1. So you want two things to multiply to -2 and add to 1. The top right is a binomial difference of squares. So it's +1 minus 1. The bottom right is also a trinomial with an understood 1. So you want to multiply to -2 and add to the -1. And then you cancel, and when everything divides out, that equals 1. Number 9, to add you get a common denominator. You always get a common denominator by multiplying. You can always get one by multiplying. So our common denominator is going to be x minus 3 times x plus 3. Whatever gets multiplied in the bottom must also get multiplied in the top. The left already had -3, so it needed +3. The fraction on the right already had +3, so it needs -3. Okay, then distribute the 2 on the left top, distribute the 5 on the right top, and combine your like terms. Number 10, you have to factor your bottom left to find out what your common denominator is. It's a trinomial on the bottom left with a 1. So what multiplies to 10 and adds to 7 would be 5 and 2. So your common denominator would be the one that's on the left. They never get smaller. So the common denominator is what's on the left denominator. It already had the correct denominator, so you don't have to do anything to the top. On the right bottom, it only had the x plus 5, so you need to multiply in the x plus 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Okay, so the top right distributes your -2, and then combine your like terms. Number 11, you factor the top and bottom. The top is a trinomial with a 1, so multiply to -8 and add to 2. The bottom is a difference of squares, so +4 minus 4. And then cancel the x plus 4's that are the same on top and bottom. Number 12, multiply everything that's inside. 3 times 6 is 18. For the letters, you add your exponents. Then break 18 down into 9 times 2. The square root of 9 comes outside as 3. The 2 stays in because it's not a nice square root. For the x and the y, those are even numbers, so you take half of the exponents and they come outside. For the z, you can't break down z, so it stays inside. Number 13, x to the 8th. You take half the exponent, and then for the 25, just take the square root. Number 14, FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. For the first, you have x times x equals x squared, and then the square root of x squared equals x. You just take half of the exponent. And combine like terms in the middle. 3 root 6 plus 2 root 6 equals 5 root 6. Number 15, rationalize the denominator. Whatever the denominator is, you multiply by the opposite. It has root plus 3, so you do root minus 3. Whatever you multiply the bottom, you also do the top. So distribute the 2 on top and then FOIL the bottom. The reason we did minus there is to make the O and the I cancel. So all you have to do is first square root of x times square root of x, and then last 3 times negative 3 equals negative 9. On the bottom, the square root of x squared equals x. On top, we distributed the 2. Graph, plug in easy numbers. 0 is easy. 1/2 times 0 equals 0, plus 3 equals 3. So we plugged in x equals 0, and we got y equals 3. That gives us the point 0, 3. We're going to plug in 2 because 2 would be easy, because 1/2 times 2, the 2's cancel. So you get 1 plus 3 equals 4. So we plugged in x equals 2, and we got y equals 4. So our second point is 2, 4. And then plot your points. 17, y equals 4 means all your points have 4 in the y place. So just make anything for x, because the line keeps going, so it doesn't matter what you put in x, because your line just keeps going forever. Number 18, graph using intercepts. That means one time you're going to plug in 0 for x and solve for y. If you put 0 in for x and solve for y, you get 3. So when x equals 0, y equals 3. Then you let y equal 0 and solve for x. So put 0 in the place of y into the equation and solve for x. So you get x equals 4. We got x equals 4 from plugging in y equals 0. So that tells us our second point is x is 4, y is 0. So 4, 0. That is the end of this lesson.